Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Aaron, bring me up to speed. What happened with your rentals?
Well, I built a portfolio of 7 rentals, and they were supposed to be cash flow positive right out of the gate. And instead, last year, I lost $36,000.
Oh, I hate hearing that. Rental properties are supposed to make you money, but as Aaron is about to show us, you can lose money buying rental properties. On the podcast today, we're going to figure out what went wrong. Was Aaron maybe buying the wrong properties? Was he not buying in a good area? Did he know what he was doing, or is this just simply a case of bad luck? We'll get to the bottom of it and see what we can learn from Aaron's experience. Joining us on the show today from Dallas is Aaron Logan. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Aaron. Time is our most valuable asset. If you don't have enough time in the day, you might be spending too much time on low leverage activities. Things like managing properties can take up a ton of time and give you a very low return. Take your time back and use it to do activities that'll make you more money. I want to let you know about a cheaper and better way to manage your rental portfolio. It's with a virtual professional from Worker Gen X. They can handle repair requests, make sure your rent's collected, help you track expenses for tax time, handle inquiries when you have a turnover. Pretty much everything that needs to be done, they can handle. They do the work, you get your time back. You also won't need to spend your time training your professional. Worker Gen X has employees that are trained and ready to hit the ground running for you. You can find out more at workergenx.com. That's worker, WORKERGENIX.com. Workergenx.com. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property, and when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com. NMLS 42056.
Rental Income Podcast.
Aaron, it sounds like you've lost a ton of money over the last year. Let's figure out what happened. Let's start off talking about your portfolio. What does it look like?
So this portfolio was 7 turnkey rental properties that I got through a turnkey provider, which is where the idea is that they go ahead and do the renovations, that when you get the property, it's ready to go. Everything's been done. And then they either hand you off to a property manager or they own a property manager. And then they go ahead and manage the property. And everything, it just kind of went wrong on all sides. Like the turnkey provider was not finishing the properties properly. They were not doing a good job with the renovations. They were doing a horrible job. And the property manager also was not doing a good job. And all kinds of things were falling through the cracks. The accounting was a mess. They weren't staying on top of, what was supposed to have been done and what was going on with the tenants. And so and then there was infighting between those two, between the property manager and the turnkey provider. And then we were kind of heading into the COVID shutdowns. And so it was kind of like getting hit on all sides, really, all at once.
So the Turnkey Company sold you on, this is going to be an easy investment. You're going to buy these properties. They're fully rehabbed. We've got this great property management company that's going to manage it for you. This is going to be passive, hands off, and very easy for you, but that wasn't reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So losing $36,000, is this actual cash that came out of your pocket?
Yes. Yeah, this was negative cash flow for last year.
And that's a lot of money to come up with. Did you have like an emergency fund set aside for this?
Yes, I had money set aside. I use a HELOC against my own house. And then money set aside. Yeah.
Okay. And with the property, so these were 7 turnkey properties you bought. were all the properties having trouble, or was it like one or two of the properties that were really the bulk of this?
Yeah, great question. So there were some of them have been great. Like some of them have been rock stars and they've been fine. There was um, there was one in particular that has been kind of what I would call a problem child property, where it's just been one thing after another, just issue after issue after issue, and on top of it's needed just a complete head to toe full renovation over the last couple of years, and on top of that, it's been hard to get good tenants in there. And when I first bought it, it sat vacant for a while. That was part of the property manager not doing a good job, and I didn't find out the full scope of really what was going on until down the road. I fired them and got a different property manager and got kind of a full thorough review of what the situation was with that one. There were a couple others also that needed some things last year. There was a roof on another one. There was an HVAC on a third one. So there were really kind of 3 properties in total that pulled those numbers down. The others were all positive, the other 4. But there was the roof for one, there was an HVAC for another, and then there was this one problem child property where it's just been issue after issue after issue, and there's been a lot with that one.
So say like for the roof or the HVAC, did they represent that this is a brand new roof or not really?
What they did was, well, and I want to be fair, I went through a turnkey marketing company, which kind of connects you with the underlying turnkey providers in the area. Once everything went so wrong with this particular turnkey provider, and I ended up firing them, I let the turnkey I was keeping them updated on what was going on, and they also fired them and don't work with them anymore. I want to be fair to them.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
but with that being said, though, let me question you on that. So you're going through a turnkey marketing company that has supposedly vetted the local turnkey company, but it sounds like, and that's the value, like you're paying a premium to get this property. But if the turnkey marketing company isn't vetting the company good, didn't they kind of let you down?
Well, they had worked with them for years and they hadn't had these issues before. Something had happened. I don't know exactly what had happened. I think the owner lived out of state, and I think he was not the owner of the turnkey market, the owner of the underlying turnkey provider. And I think he was just getting more and more disconnected with actually what was happening on the ground. And of course, I didn't know this at the time. I found this this out later as things went on. I think he was very disconnected. And so, yeah, things were not getting done and being signed off on like, oh, this property's renovated, ready to go. And then, and they had a 90-day like warranty where if something was not done, something was wrong, you could, contact them. They'd go back in and fix it for free, which did come up with a separate property that happened with one because we got a tenant in there right away and we're able to find out, oh, there's this, and this, which isn't done. And then they went back in there and fixed it. What happened with this other property that was just constant problems was they didn't get a tenant in there. And so because there was no tenant in there and the 90 days came and went, I was not fully aware of all the things that weren't done. I was just being told, this one's ready to go. We're marketing it. We're trying to get someone in there. Their concept on a new roof or new HVAC was it's either going to be new or it should have enough life in it to last 10 years. That was kind of that was what they would, that was their marketing pitch.
Okay. So when you bought the properties, did you get an inspection done or were you going on like the relationship that you had with your turnkey company? Like, I guess, were you trusting that everything was done or did you get your own inspection?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was one of the big lessons for me was I didn't do my own separate inspection. They sent someone in on these and they had someone that did an inspection and because I have those in my files, but it was someone that they knew.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And you didn't, these properties are out of state. So I'm assuming you probably didn't go there in person either.
Correct. Right.
Okay. So yeah, I think that maybe would have made a big difference if you'd gotten a home inspection and you would have seen, look, like this roof does not have 10 years left on it. And then maybe you could have gone back and negotiated to get a new roof, or you maybe
Right.
gotten a lower price or something. So,
Yeah, that's a
so
good-
like, tell me like all the big things that came up on the properties, or were there a few big things, or was it a lot of little things?
Yeah, both, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been a few big things. I've had a few HVACs. One was, this particular property that's caused so much problems that it needed a new HVAC. I had to do HVAC, roof, sump pump in the basement. We had to rewire the whole house, redo all the electrical. That came up late. That came up last year, 2022. So that was a couple years after buying it, but it was just things kept going wrong with it, and so eventually it was like, we can't keep doing these little repairs. The electrical is just shot. We did some new piping under the kitchen with the plumbing. We ripped up 7 layers of flooring in the kitchen, redid flooring. It had so many layers. And yeah, and then there was a bunch of little things on top of that, little repairs here and there on top of on those things. And then, yeah, there was a roof for, actually there was a roof for 2 other rentals in the last couple of years. And then there were a couple other HVACs. So yeah,
Geez.
there's been a lot.
Now, you mentioned too that the property was vacant for a while. Is that common in this area, that it takes a while to rent properties, or were these properties maybe not in good neighborhoods?
This one in particular, that has been a problem, has turned out to not be in a great neighborhood. Now this past year, it has started to get a lot more investors moving into that area and renovating homes. And so we've seen the value of the home go up a little bit from that, but the rent rates have not moved up yet. And it's still kind of, it's slow to kind of change an area. So some of the other ones are doing much better now. I haven't had the same kind of problems with the other rentals as far as getting a decent tenant in there. This one has been just an ongoing problem with that, where I think it's just the area. Yeah. Yeah.
So did the Turnkey Company maybe give you the impression that this is a better neighborhood than it actually turned out to be?
Yeah, we didn't even really get into that from what I can remember. It was, but they definitely pitched this as like being a good solid rental. That's going to have good income, and it just hasn't turned out to be the case. Not so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's so much trust. How far away is this property from where you live?
Yeah, so this one is in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm in the Dallas area.
Okay, and how far away is that?
I don't know. That's 3-hour flight.
3-hour flight. Okay. So I guess, like, is there any way that you could have verified what the neighborhoods were like without physically going there? Like, looking back on it.
Looking back on it now, I have built better relationships with different companies there, and I've learned how to utilize real estate investor groups online to track down, if you need a contact for this, that, or the other, how to track down good recommendations for somebody. You need a good agent, you need a good property manager, you need a good, whatever it is, good contractor. There are other ways to track that down instead of just relying on, a turnkey company that I've learned, since then that I would do that.
Yeah. I almost feel like a realtor, if you found a good investor friendly realtor in that area, they may have helped you a lot more. This may have had a different ending where you didn't lose $36,000 if you had a good realtor that could have showed you a good area to invest in. Someone that would have made you get a home inspection before you buy the property. I mean, it is what it is, but it's I'm just thinking, how could you have avoided this situation? And yeah, I feel like doing it on your own, it may have worked out better. Now Now, what about the age of the property? Because you've got all this stuff coming up. Are these older properties?
Yeah, they're kind of a range. They're mostly older. This one in particular that has had the most problems, I think it was built in 1935.
Okay.
So it's pretty old, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something else to think about is maybe getting a newer property.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So a newer property, better neighborhood, get a home inspection. Is there anything else that you think you could have done differently?
Well, one of the things that I've learned, once I've fired that turnkey provider and that property manager, and I found new ones, and I've built really good relationship with one of them in particular, but both of them are still better than before. But like you were saying before, with one of them, they're in Montgomery, Alabama. They have been really helpful with helping me determine, what are good areas, what would actually be a good rental. Because I've done another couple deals with them since that were separate, and they helped me shoot down some deals that were just that I was looking at, and they were just like, nah, I wouldn't do that. That's not a great area. And so it really is about, and they're also an investor themselves. So it helps if you can find someone that you're working with that also is an investor, has done some investing. They understand they can really put themselves in your shoes. Yeah. And yeah, a separate inspection that you do separately, not through them. That's needed. And yeah, those two things are huge.
Yeah. Now, what about rent? Are these properties fully occupied? Are you getting full rent, or are you having trouble there?
So they're all occupied at the moment, except for that one in Birmingham. It's vacant again. We've had some people in and out. I've had to do, I think last year there was an eviction. I had to do the most recent tenants. We didn't do an eviction. They just moved out after their term was up. And then we've gone back in, we've done some, make ready on it again. And then we're now marketing it to get someone. And really I'm seriously considering trying to shift directions with that one. I've been trying to find someone in Birmingham who might be able to help me do like a lease option where I can potentially get a better tenant in there, and then they can eventually buy the property. If that won't work, then I may just look at selling it. I almost sold it last year, and I wish I had, to be honest. I thought I would give it one more go round, and so did for a little bit, and then kind of ended up with more vacancy again after that. So
of the 36,000, how much would you estimate that you've spent on that property?
That property was the majority of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe 25,000, like just to ballpark it.
Yeah, if I had to ballpark.
Okay. So you've spent 25,000, and then you're having constant turnover. So that property is really bringing you down. Like would you consider just listing it on the MLS and just washing your hands of it and just being done with it?
I'm considering it. I would, one of the frustrating things is if I had sold it, and this is, there's a term for this in psychology that's slipping my mind at the moment. But, if I'd sold it last year, in the fall, the comps were much higher. Once the rates started going up, the comps in that area started coming back down. So, and that would have been about right now, that would have been about a $20,000 or $30,000 difference. So I think it's sunk cost.
Yeah. Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the psychological term.
Yeah. So honestly,
it's kind of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I really think you should just dump that property. It's like you've lost money on it already. And I understand you want to get that money back, but you can make that money back on another property. Like there's other, it's like if you find like a really good below market deal, maybe buy a property $25,000 below market, you can get that money back right away. But it just sounds like with that property being in a bad neighborhood and having constant trouble with tenants in that property, and all the money you put into it. I just feel like that's bringing you down. That property is just a bad property.
Yeah, that's the more I have slept on it, the more I've felt the same.
Yeah.
I've kept trying to find ways to make it work, and just fully renovated it and, keep trying with new tenants. And I have been looking around to try to find someone for lease options. I still have a few voice messages out there that I haven't gotten returned yet. So that might be an option, but that would be the last option. If I can't do a lease option with somebody, then you're right. I think probably the best bet would be just cut it loose.
I'm sure if someone listening to this right now can help you. So we'll put your information on the website, and I'm sure one of our listeners can help you figure something out with this property. Right. But let's end on a good note. So these properties have not gone very well, but you've got some other properties that are doing well. Can you tell us like something good just to make us feel good as we wrap things up?
Sure. Well, I've done a couple other deals. I mean, I've done a handful of other deals. I've done a couple flips here in the Dallas area. And I've done a Burr deal in Montgomery using that new property manager that I found that also has an agency, and I have a great relationship with them. I did a Burr deal with them where I found an off-market deal, and we, went and bought it. I renovated it, refinanced it, got someone in there. And that one has been great. And then got a triplex. We're doing some work on that right now. We've got 2 of the units rented out. It's cash flowing now. Done a little bit of work. It's going to need some more work, probably on that one. That we'll be doing work on that over the next year or two. And then a couple other, I've got a couple turnkeys that I bought through that first turnkey marketer that are in Indianapolis. And those have been rock stars. Those have just been killing it. They've been great. And then a couple of the other turnkey rentals have really been pretty good too. There's been a couple things here and there, like I said before, where we've had an HVAC or a roof or something, where I've had to deal with that. But then outside of that, they've been good solid tenants in there, and they've been paying rent. And so it's really just been a couple, and in that one in particular, that has just been one thing after another. So at least there's been a lot of positive elsewhere. So like you're saying, if I can find a way to just, cut this one loose, or at least option it or something, to just move on to something else that'll paint a whole different picture moving forward.
So it doesn't sound to me like you're getting ready to give up on real estate, that you're looking at this as a learning experience and something you're going to get past.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, if anyone thinks they can help Aaron, I've got his contact information on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 451. I'd like to thank Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to buy a rental property, whether you're just getting started or you want to add to your portfolio, reach out to Chaley. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of different loan programs, and she can find something that'll work for you in your situation. If you want to find out more, you can reach out to Chaley at ridgelendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. I'll be back with the new episode next Tuesday. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.